assure you, I would not want to wake up as president of China with 1.4 billion people expecting their lives to be improved. That is very challenging.
人民对美好生活的向往就是我们的奋斗目标。
The Chinese government have brought about 600 million people out of poverty since the beginning of the reforms from 78.
我们剩下的最后的贫困人口是4000多万，翻过头来，它可能是最难以克服的深度绝对贫困。习近平以人民为中心的发展战略是极其独特的。
也是你们家里
Engaging people's emotions and moving just beyond the idea of the party that delivers GDP growth.
The China Dream is a unique piece of political vocabulary he's used.
中国梦有2个层面，一个就是作为国家，一个作为个人。
党和政府都会帮助大家。
My name is Danny Forster. I'm a designer and a filmmaker, and I've had incredible opportunities to travel all over China. And for me, this is a fascinating moment to look at Xi Jinping.
I'm Dr. Jordan Ewing. As an engineer, technologist, and entrepreneur, I'm interested to find out how China is using innovation to solve some of these challenges.
My name is Marianne Potter. I'm an anthropologist. There's a phrase that's often associated with President Xi's policies. That's that they are people-centred. I want to know what that really means. In this episode, we discover the impact of Xi Jinping's distinct focus on enabling people. Not just as a collective, but as individuals, with unique challenges and dreams in fast-changing China. How can you have big dreams if you're worried about tomorrow?
Can everybody participate in the Chinese dream?
Take the story of Xu Pazhuan. Her husband's dead and her children have moved to the city. Her village, Shubadong, was once lost in the hills of Hunan province. For years, there wasn't even a road in.
改革开放以后，造成了很大的收入差异，农村啊、小城镇啊，被人们遗忘了。
They're familiar with income inequality throughout their history. They know that it's a big challenge. They're working on it.
最开始弄干弄老不那18栋嘞，哎，什啦最差哟，哎，内股啦就接，铁路啦就没。本来也来弄在18栋嘞，在弄。 那原来你出菜出家呀，干啦什么，那就没有几那收入了。对，还生活啊，简单的过路，把东西好那方，简单的过路生活。
Xu Pazhuan's life would change when the village of Shubadong became a testing ground for a new initiative in 2013, the Targeted Poverty Alleviation Scheme. The idea is simple. To identify the poorest families in the poorest villages in China and help them help themselves. Rather than simply hand out benefits, the Poverty Alleviation Scheme asks poor villagers to take chances, be ambitious, pursue dreams. Which is why Mrs. Shi and her neighbours have ploughed a big chunk of the Poverty Relief Fund and their own money into a 160-acre kiwi fruits plantation. The first harvest is due in less than 3 months, and Mrs. Shi has come to check on her investment. Plantation manager Mr. Luo does the guided tour. Mrs. Shi cuts to the chase.
一年好多少？一年可能今年呢有1000把块钱样子，啊，等到升过期了就有5000了。
为了开单呢，还不能多人拿呗，还都弄来去带路。为这么办也是家都外人，干你们干了谁也懂，买了小事，你都该愁。
我们在精准扶贫所遇到的 最大的问题实际上如何对贫困人口扶志，就是你要有志向，要摆脱自己的贫困。
当我是一个孤儿的时候，是我学会了喝酒，喝得来醉如泥，每天就睡在马路中间啊。
They're trying to allow more spaces for people to be economically autonomous and self-directing.
养蜂养了4年了，我们这里是最原生态的那个土蜂蜜。工作地帮我安排一个师傅，让我跟他一起学，我学了半个多月。
Every poor family in China has a dossier, a folder, and somebody's responsible. Even senior party officials from the province being assigned there and being responsible for 150 or 200 poor families.
去年我有2-3万，今年估计还要多一点。
Every family has a plan, and that's the way their income can go above the poverty line.
But targeted poverty alleviation focuses on much more than income generation.
浪费是行政两委还工作队帮我们这个贫困层解决一些大连今年没有找到吃饭的人。我的现在生活我就比原来好了好几倍。
Though half of China's 1.3 billion people live in urban areas, more than 600 million live in the countryside. And to help them get better opportunities involves providing new infrastructure. The building of roads to the once remote village Shibadong has given its inhabitants a new way to make a living. In the past, few strangers found their way to Shibadong. Now they come by the coachload. Poverty Relief Task Force leader Wu Shewun says it's revitalizing the village.
15年前或者20年前，这个地方呢，可以说呢。我们现在用句话怎么说呢？原来是穷山恶水因为这个里根本没有外人来过。那么现在的话呢，它就大不一样了。中国最美丽的乡村了，这是我们的目标。
It's led to the renaissance of a centuries-old craft. The Miao have always embroidered their own clothes. Now, with the help of the task force, they've set up a collective to sell their work to visitors.
So it's like if the ocean comes up, all the boats sort of go up. That's the general plan of economic development, and that makes sense. But President Xi has taken it to a new level and say, okay, now we've done that, but now there are still some people who, because of geography, maybe in mountain areas, or because they have infirmities or disease, that it's not going to work for those people. So we have to have a targeted approach.
同步前进，一个也不能少。
In 2016, China spent more than $10 billion on tackling poverty. Since 2013, 60 million people have been raised above the poverty line. That's one person every 2 seconds. You have to admire the ambition of such a huge undertaking. And it seems right. With China's growing prosperity, the focus is to make sure that no one gets left behind.
What's pretty impressive, to give the Chinese government their due, is that the remaining 80 to 100 million folks who are in poverty don't just slide off the political radar screen, they are central to the political narrative in China.
习近平以人民为中心的发展战略是极其独特的，他对中国的经济发展提出了我要以GDP 论英雄，要以民生为英雄。
来问问你。
不能在安内，安内不能来不能在白中了，为小女白的业界不。
Xu Pajman's visitor spent time asking various details about her life conditions.
而且今年你起来呢，这就小女白的就要常务这就种不留着可以讲好过来。原就来不长这那也不只讲到高呀不解释，叫我们开心问就不呀，为是起初不用，或者眼不用，眼到你不能回家出去，装药了。
If you look at his speeches, there's a clear refrain that gets repeated quite often. He talks of people, he talks of poverty, and he talks of social justice. In the past 5 years, President Xi has made visits in 14 of the poorest regions in China. It's clear that Xi Jinping has an interest in the poor, but I wonder, where did that curiosity come from? I think one of the critical byproducts of China's newfound position on the world stage is that people are paying attention. So the things that Xi Jinping says, his philosophies, his strategies, are of importance not just to the Chinese people anymore. But what shaped Xi's approach to politics? How has his life experience prepared him to lead one of the world's emerging superpowers? Xi was born into an elite political family and educated in Beijing. But at the age of 15, he would experience dramatic change.
He went down to a pretty remote area and kind of just mucked in. He had to kind of forget his elitist background. It's a very undeveloped area, so it was pretty tough. He was known as someone who did kind of cooperate and collaborate.
This is Liangjiahe in Yanchuan County, the village where Xi would spend his next 7 years. Local shopkeeper Liao Jinlian remembers Xi as a man who was happy to pitch in. Xi got his first experience of public administration when he was elected village party secretary at the age of 20. His first project was to set up a foundry and a milling station. But he had even bolder plans. His biggest achievement was to organize the community to bring more land under cultivation.
98的时候的话，什么也做了，这个车子也推了，土也投了，种书记脏活、累活都抢不干，所以大家呢对他才这个尊重和信任。但是70年代呢，这里的这个条件很不好，很艰苦，生活也很苦，但是在这苦的时候呢，苦中有乐。
For a contemporary Chinese leader to have an authentic link with the countryside is pretty important. He has eaten bitterness, and the Chinese word for that is 吃苦, and that gives him the moral right to speak in the way that he does now.
Xi left the district in 1975. In all, he'd served in 5 provinces at every level of the Chinese government.
President Xi was the governor in Fujian, party secretary in Zhejiang, and then party secretary in Shanghai. Each one of those provinces are bigger than most countries of the world in terms of numbers of people and size of GDP.
The Chinese system, therefore, of training political cadres is pretty comprehensive. So when I look at people like President Trump, who's gone straight from commerce into the White House, in the Chinese system, this would be seen as just unfathomable, impossible not to have had extensive, decades-long direct experience in public administration.
Xi's extensive experience across China's vast landscape, interacting with different communities, would sharpen his strategy and prepare him to address China's economic challenges to come.
The backbone of any economy is infrastructure. And what China has shown is tremendous in terms of their investment in the infrastructure space.
我们实现了世界最大规模的基础设施革命，基础设施现代化。
To improve balances in the Chinese economy, President Xi and his team are investing in giant infrastructure projects. From an engineering perspective, one of the best projects, one of the most exciting projects, is the bullet train network. The big cities were the first to benefit. Now it's being rolled out across China, which presents 1 or 2 technical issues. To show you what I mean, I want to take you to Yibin in Sichuan province. Because this bridge is at the frontier of China's high-speed train network. Crossing the Jinsha River, it'll be a vital link on the new line connecting Chengdu and Guiyang. Chief Engineer Li Yanzhe is facing his biggest challenge,